He is a 1964 batch alumni of prestigious Armed Force Medical College, Pune, India, and served in Indian Air Force, acquiring postgraduate qualifications in aviation, sports, and general medicine. In pursuit of excellence in medical care beyond west of modern medicine and without the Republic of China, to acquire a high level of proficiency in acupuncture. He qualified to be an instructor in Ashtanga Yoga, Naturopathy, and Panchkarma, Reiki Grandmaster, Archetic Pranic Healer, a counselor, hypnotherapist, a nutrition and lifestyle expert. He has a passion for sports and sports persons, offering quick recovery from injuries, enhanced level of performance with added years to sustain it at the peak. He excelled as an all-round sportsman. He was the first ever to hoist Indian tricolor atop 22,700 feet tall Mount Manthosa in year 1973, followed by a conquest of 19,500 feet Virgin Peak with Nippon Alpine Club expedition, which the Japanese named Mount Poonam after his then fancy, as an expression of gratitude to his exceptional services in success of the expedition. He has been medical advisor to Indian Air Force Sports Control Board and Indian Hockey Federation. Also provided medical cover to visiting Pakistani and West Indies cricket teams. The beneficiaries of his therapy he included many Arjuna and Padma awardees. He now has 5 decades of rich and varied experience dedicated to eliminate all conventionally incurable sickness and restore positive health and total wellness, body, mind, spirit, leading to enhanced quality of life and add life to years of each individual. The Soham model of healthcare enables drug-free, harmless, natural, highly efficient, cost-beneficial, predictable, reproducible, and sustainable model of accessible and affordable health for all beyond limitations of any specific system or specialty of medicine. So over to Dr. Ravinder Kumar Tuli.
Thank you, sir, for such elaborate introduction. Well, I give great credit to Dr. Sushruth Almast to celebrate our very popular Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Bhai Modi by making this day as the World Holistic Health Day. I think you need a lot of kudos, and it should be made an international event. Of course, as a Honhar Suputra, you are carrying forward the mission of Dr. Sansar Chand Almast, who in practice lived this integrity, and that has been the inspiration, and there is no doubt about it. Each one of us today accept that that is the future of medicine, whereby we need to create an optimum synergy of the various drug-free systems. Anyway, so I bring this talk on this occasion, for which I am entirely grateful to Dr. Sushruth, and I am going to present to you as a practicing physician. I think I will be able to present to you a very practical, very feasible, and the words as Dr. Madhva used, a really predictable, reproducible, and sustainable model of health with the minimal use of any medications or interventions for what may be called a true positive health and wellness. But my friends, as you will see, we'll have to change our outlook somewhat as we will progress with this talk. Now I bring this talk to you with this Vedic prayer, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya. That is, may all beings be happy and may all be healthy, no one suffer any sickness in any way. And thereby may the people have well-being of all in mind and nobody suffer in any way. Out of this Sarve Santu Niramaya is also the motto of my clinic, Soham, of which you will also know little more. Because we all became doctors to serve the humanity and to make sure that people do not suffer from any sickness, and if at all they do, we are able to reinstate their health at the earliest possible. Why? Because health is the most important ingredient of life, as this Vedic saying says, Dharmartha Kama Mokshama Shariram Mula Mutma. That means whatever we wish to achieve in life, we must first have health. If I want to, as I grow through my years as a childhood, acquiring my education, I must be in a good state of not only physical, mental, emotional, and even spiritual health. And through the journey of life. That has been our Vedic wish, and this is the purpose we all doctors have taken to this profession, and it is considered and it is definitely a very noble profession because we carry such deep ethos for our patients. Now, I bring this talk to you with the very warm compliments of Society for Holistic Advancement of Medicine called SOHAM, which is dedicated to, is this slides clear at the back please?
Yes, very much sir.
Thank you. This SOHAM is dedicated to positive health and total wellness, body, mind and spirit, as far as possible by drug-free, natural and harmless means, and also for the cure of conventionally incurable acute or chronic ailments. This definition answers to Hippocrates' dictum, who first said primum non nocere. That is, as doctors, let's make sure that we do no harm to our patient. Unfortunately, in the present status of medicine, there is no such medical intervention or pharmaceutical which assures us this. And of course, as Dr. Sushruta has already said, any healthcare service should be first very accessible, or they say if it is not accessible, it cannot be affordable. That is, it should be able to reachable to the people. And then it must give very authentic, predictable responses which are reproduced every time, and then they are able to sustain. For example, a sick person comes, I as a doctor should be able to assure my patients, look, this is what is going to happen, and as that happens, it is on road to your recovery from your sickness, and then thus benefits achieved must be able to sustain and sustain forever. This highlights that this modern approach in our treatments, which invariably require lifelong medications, can be corrected. Now this picture of the great pyramids in the background make us feel humble that while the modern technology has advanced a lot, we are very proud of the technological advances, especially in the practice of our modern medicine. But there are areas, or we cannot overlook the technology of the ancients, which we cannot even copy and duplicate. So we must give, these are the seven wonders of the world, make the normal modern technology feel humble. That what is today's technological advances, they may not be the best, or they may not be able to compare what the ancients gave to us thousands of years ago, and that includes the Samhitas that Dr. Sushruth mentioned a while ago. That is the Gyan. What technology is giving us, the Vigyan. The Gyan has survived thousands of years, and you know, the science of today, the technology of today is rapidly changing because it is certainly far from complete. But the Gyan of the ancients have survived thousands of years, and so do the medical practices of that Gyan, which we must be aware of and be able to offer to our patients for their benefit. This is just an example of an ancient technology of this monument to love, built barely 350 years ago, and today's technology cannot even understand how this monument was constructed, how it is surviving, and all the various technological aspects, not too long ago. So let us not be in the habit to ridicule the past, but rather try to learn from the past and try to incorporate it into our natural wisdom. Now, we have all gathered here today talking of holistic approach to practice of medicine, holistic medicine, and naturally the question arises, we have such a prosperous, flourishing system of modern medicine all over the world, and our country can boast of some of the best institutions. In fact, the major hospitals in our country, including in the NCR, nearly 50% of their clients or their patients come from foreign countries. Just to highlight that we have got the most sophisticated technology available, and yet we are feeling that that is not adequate and we need to go beyond this. So why, and then what is holistic medicine? And then we must adopt it only being familiar with its benefits. And its benefits means is efficacy in what we call conventional, incurable or chronic diseases requiring lifelong medication, dependence on medication or medical interventions. I'm sure that is not the purpose of a doctor, and no patient would ever like it given a choice. Now there's a long list of, like we say, I'm very proud of my heritage, of my medical background. I know my strengths, but I must be very familiar with my weaknesses. If I have to win a war, I cannot only go on my strengths. You have seen the American strengths cannot survive against the rustic Taliban. So the technology-based solutions, howsoever powerful they may appear, cannot win you a war, or win you a war against the sickness. And some of these inherent deficiencies you are all aware, but somehow I do not know why we overlook them. And as a result, the list is long. I'm sure you will get a copy of this to go through them in detail and share with me. And I'll come to this later. See, one of the biggest weaknesses of practice of modern medicine is that it addresses only to the tip of the iceberg. That it only treats the symptom. Whether it is pain, whether it is a raised blood pressure or sugar or a tumor, we just deal with the tip. Never going to the underlying cause of the problem. And they are the emotions of an individual. They say we are talking of the pollution, the atmospheric pollution today, but what the pollution that goes on in our mind is far more dangerous, and that is what leads to the emergence of what is being called lifestyle disorders today. And then you all know that modern medicine is so expensive. The countries who spend more than 200 times on their healthcare are not in any way delivering better healthcare than our country with near 2% of its very little GDP. The people in the advanced countries like France, America, England, they are not very much happier with their healthcare than our country, in spite of pumping so much expense into their healthcare. And then iatrogenesis is a major cause which is inseparable for any medical intervention. It has been labeled in the United States as the third leading cause of direct death. And there is someone who has piled up, he says if you calculate the comprehensive damage done by the healthcare system, it becomes the leading cause of death, the topmost cause of death. In America, we talk of America because we have liberal statistics coming from that country, which we may not be able to get in our country. And you all know that the modern technology acquired a lot of confidence that the World Health Organization, the UNICEF, in 1978 made an announcement that with the present capabilities we'll be able to wipe out all sickness from the world, and by year 2000 AD they promised health for all in the world, and this program came crashing down that even more than 2 decades later WHO does not even offer or talk of any such program. And among its causes of its failure was that this system of modern, because the main cause of the failure of this program was because it exclusively depended on the modern system of medicine. And this system, even today, is not accessible to most of the people in our country. I mean, if I can rate among the well-to-do in the city of Delhi, if I had to go to any hospital, I shudder. Leave alone going to a government facility. Of course, I can go to a private facility, pay for it, but then how many people can do it? 4% of India, this is WHO statistics, 4% of India falls below poverty line because of their healthcare every year. And of course, now our Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana offers 5 lakh rupees worth free treatment to nearly, I think, 80 crore people in the country. But does that solve the solution? Who's paying for it? By paying 5 lakhs of rupees, can you get somebody the health? So we have to delve into the details of this. And of course, the major cause also accepted to be was that it exclusively depending on the modern system of medicine, which is very expensive, which is very harmful, and its gains at the most are confined to the physical aspect of the human being. You will just watch, human being is much more than this physical entity that I am standing here in front of you talking and delivering. So one of the biggest deficiency was found to be that it lacked spiritual approach. What is spiritual approach? We will also be familiar with it very quickly. It's very easy for a doctor to say, well, अब तो उम्र का तकाजा हो गया, ये बीमारी तो कुछ हो नहीं सकता. And the number of people, senior citizens, is growing, and that is the phase of life where one suffers from most of the health issues, and we just bum it off by saying, अब the age has caught on and nothing can be done. Even this COVID-19 has taught us great lessons. The most important of it, that today we know that we have no medicine, no reliable mode of treatment against the COVID-19 infection. If at all there is any escape, it is in prevention. Prevention has always been considered the best treatment. If there is any chance, it is through prevention. And of course, we feel very proud having done about 76 crore vaccinations till yesterday in all over the country. But this vaccination, this immunization, there is already a talk of the people who have received it 6 months ago, whether they are still protected by this vaccination. It's not a permanent solution. In any case, it is called emergency sanction of vaccination. It's an emergency sanction. There are a lot of there are a lot of areas where it does not fulfill the scientific query about the vaccinations. But there is something called natural immunity. I call it spiritual vaccination. And when we talk of the word, what is natural immunity? You know, that is actually the backbone our country has gone through. As you will know again, this COVID-19 has exposed its incidence of infections and mortality compared to the United States, where that country, which has about 32 times more expenditure, per capita expenditure on health, has about 6 to 8 times more morbidity and more mortality because of the COVID infection. And we are trying to blindly follow the American system. What comes Americans, any Indian who has gone from here and is working in America, we think we put them on a platform. But this exposes that this American medicine, which we are largely trying to follow in the name of modern medicine, is not the panacea. Rather, we should raise our antennas to try to how we can do without it, and why India has done better than the United States. That's the factor of our, somewhere, it's not scientific to talk about it, but we have got some natural, some divine protection. How the second wave came and withered off, there is no scientific answer to it. So you will have to, when the science does not give you an answer, you have to go back into the, from Vigyan to the Gyan, and you will learn a lot. And this is more than 100 years old. Sri Aurobindo, one of the greatest sages that our country has known. And this is when he was young, he was perpetually sick and on medications, and only when he discarded taking the medicines that he found that he could be healthy. It is in fact, there are American statistics that in areas where there are more hospitals, the morbidity, the sickness is far more in those areas. And if due to any reason a hospital shuts down, or like they say, recently there was a strike by the doctors in this country called Israel, and there is no private medical services available in that country, and the doctors went on a strike for 3 months, and the sickness all around started reducing. Even during the COVID active phases, we saw there were far less people falling sick and going to the hospitals for their sickness. Now here comes the biggest deficiency in our approach to health by following the system of modern medicine. You all know human health is attributed to be a trilogy of factors. That is the human host, the environment in which we live, and the agent, the disease causing agent. Modern medicine does not offer anything to enhance the host defenses or the capability to save against any disease. Of course, the environment, again because of the technology, we have damaged so much, but we are taking it for granted. The worst polluted cities in the world are in India, but yet we do not have the worst effects of pollution in India as compared to some other countries. And that's again an invisible factor. Now, the agent, the disease causing agent, as a matter of fact, the modern system of medicine which is called allopathic, the word allo stands for external interventions, whether in the form of pharmaceuticals or surgical interventions, etc. So we are all the time depending on external interventions, trying to save or restore our health. But it never happens. What happens is the host factor. For example, there's no antibiotic, no chemotherapeutic agent will ever work unless my own immunity supported it. If my immune system was weak, that means I suffered from HIV. And in that situation, no antibiotic will work, of which we feel very proud. And as you know, over the last 5 decades, the cause of sickness in our country has shifted from infections to today what is being called lifestyle disorders. That we have played very hell with our lives, our lifestyles, that we have created such diseases of which we have no remedy. So we must, and one of the very important things in our environment, see, our environment not only has the gases and things that, but very important is the electromagnetic fields. Human being at the core is an electromagnetic being, that energetic being, and that is so subtle. In any case, it is a scientific known phenomenon that we survive in a planet which has got North Poles and South Poles. So there are electromagnetic fields which have been responsible for our health. But these modern technological developments are playing very hell with this system, and there is a hypothesis that every time these fields are disturbed, that there are these epidemics of these viruses. And this picture of Shri Sundarlal Bahuguna, who says harmony with the nature is the only way of life, and nobody can deny that. Now, having learned this failure of Health for All by 2000 AD and its audit saying that one of the major factors was because it lacked spiritual direction to health. And 1986, at the initiative of an Indian representative to WHO, this was decided in the World Health Assembly that not only the physical, mental and social well-being, but spiritual well-being of human being should also be included in the definition of health. This was recommended in 1986, 35 years ago, but WHO has not permitted its introduction into the official because it says the word spiritual is unscientific. Whereas the greatest scientist of all times, no less than Sir Albert Einstein, has persisted that science without spirituality is lame. We talk of science and we give no importance to the spirituality. How can we be offering? And the day he says, he made this statement more than 100 years ago, the day the technology will surpass our human interaction, the world will have a generation of ... This is what is happening in the new atmosphere, in the present day atmosphere. Not only Einstein, our rishis, here we have Dr. Sushruta from a lineage of Charkas and Jivakas and... But if I say, let's say it is the spirit, human being at the core is the spirit, Atma or spirit or soul, which is the core of the human being. What am I at the core? This body, this 80 kilos of flesh, or we say body mind. Till a few years ago, medical profession didn't give any importance to the role of mind. But now at least we have started talking and accepting it, that there is a mind-body combination, that there is a psychosomatic element in every sickness. But, friends, will the body and the mind function in the absence of the spirit? You take the spirit off this body, what happens to this mind and body? Is dead and nothing. So at the core, and this is what our heritage teaches us, how can we just put it aside and follow this blind American model, Western model? So it is the central and the radical factor of life. And when we say spirituality, when we practice spirituality, is when we are managing our own spirit. So spirituality is management of our own spirit. And in health it moves within these clothings along the path of what dharma is the righteousness, along the right path. And to prevent as well as remove the disease and ensuing distress and pains is the function of the physician. So it's very important for the physician to understand this core factor of life, which is thousands of years old wisdom, our own heritage. The whole world respects it. At least by initiating this day, let us make a beginning to this understanding and try finding the answers within this. So the balance of the body and the mind is responsible for happiness and health, and the disturbance in their harmony, that is disturbance in their harmony because our spirit, our core, that gets disturbed, that is what leads us to diseases. And this is what is going to be the core of when we talk of holistic health. We have to understand that at the core, if it's like, now there's a machine I'm using right now to communicate with you. It has got a body, the hardware, it's got a mind, the software, but it needs an uninterrupted power supply. If I may compare this power supply, because if power supply goes off, this mind and body will shut down. If there is any erratic supply in this power, it will again mislead me and take me all kinds of places. So it's the core is that energy, which is called the soul or the spirit, which brings all the intelligence. We are talking of the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is created by the human being from the limited intelligence that we have. But this human spirit is the part of the universal spirit. Look at the nature. If there are about as many people in the world, there are as many species, and they are all being handled effortlessly by the nature, by the nature's intelligence. That intelligence gives me life, that intelligence gives me health, that intelligence is my factor of invisible health, which I call immunity, which is like my armament, which is like my protection against all diseases. Okay, yes, this even WHO definition says is not merely absence of disease, but a state of positive physical, social, mental health. So at the core, human being is a soul, and this soul loves peace. Say, मैं एक शांति प्रिय आत्मा हूँ. I like to share this with the audience. I make a statement, मैं एक शांति प्रिय आत्मा हूँ. Does anybody dispute this statement? When I say I mean each one of us love our peace. Anybody against it? Is it the truth? We all want our peace. What is peace? Peace is my harmony. The harmony within me, my mind body, my inner organs. There are so many organ systems functioning at tandem in the body without the medical people ever even try to even understand. And where is my mind? My mind does not live in my brain. My mind lives in every cell of my body. Every cell in the body knows what is its job. Not only it is delivering its job, it is also turning around all the time. That is because of the universal consciousness, the universal nature's intelligence which is imbibed into us and make us play this game for our, and when this game goes on, we start replacing the old with the new. What is called the objective of treatment is the healing, the process of healing begins. And this disturbance, leads us to, first we feel distressed and then it takes the form of a disease. So we will have to now, to restore this as the way of life in our country. Yoga has been considered a way of life by our rishis. Yoga, what is yoga? Yoga means the Jivatma and the Paramatma, the oneness, the union of it is a state of yoga. When this is disturbed, that disturbs my very being and leads to various diseases. So, at the one click of our Prime Minister, 195 countries in the world accept it. But yoga has been made into a great business today, and I get my peace in this harmony, I get my happiness, I get my strength in this harmony. And Rishi Patanjali is the one who's written a very detailed thesis on this, what is called Ashtanga Yoga. That is a combination of the Yama, Niyama, Pranayama, Asanas, Dhyana, Dharana, Prarthana and Samadhi. And Ashtanga means octagonal. It's like, it's not one limb. Today we read an advertisement everywhere, yoga and meditation. So they do not even know what is yoga when they call meditation as something different. And what is most important is that yoga is not only doing some physical gymnastics, but at the core being a yogi. That being in this harmony. This harmony is called being a state of yoga. I don't do yoga every day, but I am a yogi in action. Whatever I do, I must do full justice with this awareness that I am doing it is being done through me for the benefit of humanity. So this harmony is oneness, what we may understand the human microcosm with the universal macrocosm, the Jivatma, the Paramatma, and this harmony leads to health and happiness, fulfillment of purpose of life to serve. Okay, I will certainly like to, as they say, is the pollution. It is not the external environmental pollution which is doing so much damage, but it is the pollution of our mind. And here I will certainly like to introduce to you these two words, Yama and Niyama. Everybody knows about it, who is a student of yoga, but what is required is practice, is diligent practice. And that is what is the first steps, if you call, that is how I present my attitude, how I look after others, and how I observe my own life. So, I know I'm already taking more time than earmarked for me, but it will be very important since we are going to get this, how to manage this, and then Yama, Niyama, and then of course Pranayama. What is pranayama? It's like vyayam. When we do physical exercise, we call it vyayam. This is pranayama. It is at the core, I am the prana. I am that invisible life force energy which imparts life to me, which enters with my first breath and departs when I take my last breath. So the journey of life is the journey of my breath. I ask everybody, what is the most important things in life? They say roti, kapda, makan. So those who have mastered their prana or their breath, they don't need any of this. So it is so important. And we must understand and practice it to the core. The Surya Namaskar is like one of the complete forms, and as Hippocrates had said, besides the air, the prana is okay. Another thing when we breathe, we are only talking of air and oxygen. Friends, when we breathe, we do not breathe only air or oxygen. If it was air or oxygen, doctors will not let anybody die. We will all carry oxygen bottles and live forever. But it is at the core, the prana. Breath is the medium of carrying my prana, distributed through my body, and when my prana flows, my heart beats. What gives sinoatrial node the energy to beat? They say it is an autonomous source of energy for the heart. That is all. No cardiologist is able to. I ask this question to dozens of cardiologists. Nobody can say why does the sinoatrial node discharge this current for the heart chambers to beat in coordination. It is this prana that flows through me. It needs no wiring. It has got no anatomical structure, but it is what provides me the life. Prana is my life, and doing pranayam is. And those, you also know, those who have mastered their breath, there have been such yogis and rishis who do not need food, water and air. I have myself met two such people who have lived without any food and water for months on, because they are able to harness the prana, the energy, directly from the environment without, after all, where does the food energy come from? We put some seeds and the food grows and we eat it. In the present day circumstances, in this there is so much of business, commerce is happening, that today we are scared of what we eat. But friends, this energy you can cut short and establish yourself by being aware of this phenomenon. So this is just an introduction to this factor. And our Ayurveda has been a very important system of our health, which is actually a way of life, combined with the system of yoga, in which food, as Hippocrates had said, let your food be your medicine. And there is something very, very important that has been a part of our Ayurvedic. It is a foreign scientist, Dr. Frank Ross. He has done a great work on it, and is that acupuncture, which is today known to the whole world as the Chinese system of medicine, emerged in Ayurveda, and there have been ancient practices. This is how the Chinese Yin Yang, etc., they have and developed the entire system, so much that acupuncture's efficacy in painless major surgery, etc. Okay, I should be rushing through. And this acupuncture was recognized by World Health Organization way back in 1982. Its forms of acupressure, reflexology, etc. And here I was recently, in the month of April, I was on a trek to Everest Base Camp, and this gentleman on the left, he developed acute mountain sickness. I was called when he was totally pale and blue. He did not get up that morning. Fortunately, it was our day of rest at 15,000 feet altitude, and he was totally lifeless. It's not the first time. Whenever I've gone on high altitude treks, somehow I've been able to I come across the patients. I spent a little bit of time doing some modalities of needle-free acupuncture and acupressure, and within minutes this gentleman was revived. Just to give a well, stress management, as we already said, that is the greatest pollution, and we must guard ourselves against this, because it creates all kinds of free radicals, disturbs our milieu interior, our autonomic system is disturbed, and leads to all kinds of diseases, premature aging, loss of immunity, and with the message that we as doctors should practice medicine and use the medicines as a last resort, because the health lies in the person's energy system. And then stress, because everybody is under stress, so how we can overcome our stress, this is also, and one of the most effective methods of overcoming mind-body disturbance or stressful conditions, mental, psychological, psychosomatic disturbances, which in turn lead to autoimmune disturbances, allergic disorders, degenerative diseases, hormonal disturbances, etc. They can all be very easily overcome. And all these things, the drug-free modalities, when they are combined together, you don't need to go to different shops, but it should be by the same healer, one single person who can put all this. And here in this picture I try to depict that this white light, it's like the sunlight is made of 7 different colors, beautiful colors of the rainbow. Unless these 7 colors are in optimum combination, you do not get white sunlight, the life-giving light. If there is no sun, there will be no life. And this depicts life and life for health in its different dimensions and the different systems of medicine. Today our healthcare system is based essentially upon the modern system of medicine, but there are other systems of medicine which also, can you read this? Okay, it is the violet, the same order, like on top I've written life, style, diet, yoga, exercise, etc. Then of course public health and hygiene, to the community medicine, then energy medicine, what's the system of acupuncture, yoga, etc. offered to us. Then of course wherever convenient herbals and homeopathic remedies, and of course modern medicine is the backbone, because ultimately, eventually, human beings will remain human beings. They will neglect their health, and they will only remember when they get a disaster, they run, and that is the time when only allopathic medicine can save their life. And of course, it should not remain confined there. Having saved the life, for example, I've been foolish enough, I got a severe MI, I must rush in time to the appropriate medical facility, save my life, but then there is something called secondary prevention also, which unfortunately nobody practices. People should be aware of it, only then they'll be able to. And it's like, if our life force is healthy, in fact, this is the chakra systems, this is the core of my energy flow systems, as I've also depicted those 7 different colors. Now, this is my core energy. You all know perhaps that this energy, as it flows through these energy centers called the chakras, it is modified for the use of dependent organs and tissues, the hormones, etc. And that is what can keep us in the state of positive health. And today we even have technology which helps us to, it required very high sense of development, but today we can, and this can save us from ever reaching from a system of life support. So these are the various modalities which can be practiced by every single physician who practices with the passion that I will not give medicine to my patient and I will see to it that this patient gets well. And friends, I'm sitting here shouting from the top of the tower that this is very much possible, and this is, having been able to do this, I'm standing here today, trying to inspire all of you to take this message home, that today diseases which are reached an end stage, which are totally incurable, can be fully reversed. There's enough clinical evidence. Even I've worked in Apollo and I had over 15 years of compiled data of course, but these are not double-blind trials, but there are enough scientific papers published in the world which tell you that yoga helps, that pranayama helps, or meditation helps, or acupuncture helps, and the various but they all have a same purpose and they can all be combined together to deliver health. And these are just the various modalities which in the Soham model of health we are able to very successfully practice and reverse disease at any stage and restore positive health of the person. And of course, whatever you do with love. Love means passion, and with compassion, and with the zeal that I as a doctor must make sure that each of my patients gets well. So, in other words, holistic medicine becomes complemented the best practices of modern medicine with the various drug-free modalities. You know, there is this feeling that Supreme Court has banned sort of mixopathy. Our Indian Medical Association is highly against mixopathy. I agree with you. Unless I am trained in any system of medicine, I have no right to practice it on my patients. But if you have got your DM in, say, any branch of medicine, you can still go and learn Ayurveda. You can still acquire a qualification in practice of yoga or in acupuncture. And particularly these modalities which require no medicine. As a matter of fact, when we talk of integrating the various systems of medicine, what becomes more important is that since the mainstream medicine today is allopathic, in our country more than 90% budget and people patronize this system of medicine. But you cannot give another system of medicine invariably because we do not know what will be the drug interactions. It could be a great problem. But for example, yoga, acupuncture, which require no drug interactions, no contradictions, can easily be complemented to the practice of this. And similarly, as an allopath or as an Ayurveda or as a homeopath or as a Unani or a Siddha doctor, I can complement these because these are spiritual practices. This is what manages my energy flow system in the body. I can, with mild medication is only for a short temporary purpose for emergency use, but these are the things which will ultimately help me to recover my health and restore my wellness. So these are the various, very often a question is raised that there is no evidence to these practices of integrated holistic. Now I also should highlight to you what is the difference between integration. They say there should be, there's a main system of medicine, what is today called modern medicine. Everything else is being put into the alternate systems of medicine. We have no dispute. The aim of a doctor is that our patient should get well by the simplest, easiest and the most efficient means. So there should be, but there could be a problem of these drug interactions, which I as an allopathic practitioner, I can use these various drug-free modalities, combine them into my practice and bring the best out of my patient, because these are all regulating my own energy flow or restoring my milieu interior or my autonomic, my sympathetic, parasympathetic harmony, and that is restored. Healing is my nature. And evidence, yes, you know, we talk a lot about evidence-based medicine, but you know, today, or in the last 5 decades that I've been in the profession, how these evidences last. You also know that these evidences can be cooked, that they can be manipulated, and they are being governed by the commercial forces. But things which have survived thousands of years of same human experiment, observation and inference cannot go. They are so matured, but you may not be able to put them to the way the modern medicine is practiced. So this was way back in 2001 that the British Medical Journal dedicated one of its issues to this integration, and it said that this could by itself be the beginning of a healing process. And you all also know that our National Health Policy, Dr. Sushruta read that statement. I used statement before commencement of this session. This is our National Health Policy, that there should be an optimum integration of all the recognized systems of medicine for the best of the people. Now we were talking of integration. Then what is holistic? As you know, the holistic word connotes wholesome, that take care of the human being. What whole? As a whole, as a body, mind and soul. Then very important is holistic, that I offer the best of all the systems of medicine to my patient. Concurrently, to get the best out of the patient. If I have to win a war, I have to put all kinds of my machinery into action. Right from infantry to the Air Force to the Navy to the tanks and the guns, engineers and the doctor, everybody has to come together to, only then you can fight a war. Similarly, to wage a war against any sickness, we have to put all this together. That is what is wholesome. But what happens to the W? W disappears from the wholesome and it becomes holy. Holy because I am at the core a holy being. I am a spiritual being. Mother Teresa, the Dalai Lama, His Holiness, the Shankaracharya, they are the figures of spirituality, and each one of us is at the core is our Holy Spirit, and that's what makes the word holistic. It's being used very loosely these days, but that is what, and this, friends, it helps to take care of all the ailments of an individual concurrently. Now, I was invited by Dr. Pratap Reddy in 1995 to set up this what goes on record as the world's first ever department of holistic medicine. Later, holistic medicine has become a board certified specialty in USA. Today the Harvard and the greatest schools in US are in a big way promoting this. This is that picture from the so just to highlight the qualifications to be a holistic physician. When it comes to handling sickness, disease, particularly in its life-threatening form, it cannot be entrusted to any Tom, Dick and Harry. It must be practiced by a qualified, competent physician to render all this to his patients. So, that is what holistic medicine is said. It is wholesome plus holy. It is integrated, all the Ayush systems. Each of the Ayush system practitioner can also practice it in their own form, with their own background, whether Ayush or the Indian systems of medicine or TCM is called the complementary alternate medicine. So nothing is complementary or alternate. Yoga is not made to be kept aside, but to be used by a physician actively for the benefit of his own health and his patients. So that way it is complementary, but by practicing, by following a yoga lifestyle, as all lifestyle diseases can be prevented, arrested, reversed, and even cured. So, what is holistic medicine? As you say, it's a combination of wholesome and holy. It treats the human being as a whole, body, mind and spirit. It takes care of all the ailments of an individual concurrently. It complements the best of all the systems and specialties of medicine. It aims to cure as far as possible by drug-free harmless, natural means. No drugs, no dope. And fulfill the Hippocrates dictum primum non nocere. Then it aims to eradicate sickness and restore total wellness. It should be the very fact that these practices, for example, anybody who does yoga, does relaxation, the blood pressure can start coming down. Your sleep can start coming. And this happens all the time, repeatedly, under any circumstances. So if this is predictable, it is reproducible, and then it can be sustained. So if it is not scientific, what else it is? Tell me a medicine in the world which can fulfill these three criteria that a simple yogic relaxation can offer to you. And so it is very important, it should be practiced because a lot of quackery, while mainstream medicine has not supported this system, a lot of quackery has come all around. And it is our responsibility as healthcare providers to take care and guide our patients, and why not make a beginning and be yourself. So this is just to give you a list of, as I said, all diseases can be cured, are reversible, and all of them at the same time a person may have any disease, all the diseases concurrently, because by restoring the milieu interior of the person, enabling my replacement of the old with the new, I can overcome any disturbance or any disease. And that is what is the job of a noble physician. That is why our profession is called noble, because we are able to help, we should be able to help our patient under all circumstances, under any conditions, for any sickness, for any disease. And as I said, this does not require very high technology, so that makes it easily available, accessible, affordable, and as we said, it all the time fulfills this. So just in a little lighter vein, the medicines never cure any disease. Anyone who may come in even the worst form of degenerative status all that it requires is the wish of the person that I want to be well. And little time to boast. I write from the President of India down Prime Ministers and very leading. As a single doctor, probably nobody can claim having treated so many great people in the country. And with this, I'm sorry sir for having so much time, but my subject was addressing this learned audience, that how we can shift. So let this day, the World Holistic Health Day, be the beginning of holistic health in the world, beginning with ourselves first, and fulfill our Prime Minister's dream. And I am sure next your seminar is addressed by the Prime Minister himself. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much. Questions?
Sorry. So,
integrating even the diagnostics, where a physician has the data of radiological data, the laboratory data, and the genomics data, how to integrate it together. I, being a director of a National TB Institute, yesterday I was discussing in whole genome sequencing. If I develop whole genome sequencing, how to interpret the data, that requires a complicated software itself. So that was the level to which the modern medicine is causing, even for a physician to integrate the data which is presented to him or her, to analyze it and to be able to understand what the disease is. So that's the level of analysis. Well, what you are talking is holistic medicine. That's a kind of synthesis of all that we have, the inner force that we have, and in addition to whatever modern diagnostic medicine can give an insight into. And if we combine both the things together, that is the kind of thing which can bring out the maximum best. Ultimately, what is the aim as doctors? That our patients should get well. And that is what they have highlighted so beautifully, and that is the comment. And that is what we are moving towards it. Even as allopathic physicians, we realize, when I heard of it of carcinoma lung yesterday. simple gene mutations in a specimen which is provided to a pathologist. These mutations are so varied, they will require a software to analyze that which drug is useful for a particular patient. So this is a kind of a, I think, struggle between analysis and synthesis. And ultimately we know that a synthetic approach finally works. That's my comment.
That is the challenge of. Thank you. सर ये इसके साथ भी इसके साथ भी फोटो हो गया.
I will again use the mic. I will again use the mic. Dr. Ranjan Vadva, my batchmate, has been the director of my institution in the year 2020, and after that I have taken over as the directorship of my institution, which is National Institute of TB and Respiratory Disease. It's a pleasure honoring you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And to our dear Sushruth, who gave a beautiful introduction in the beginning to the subject and experiences.
Sir, Bhadra sir. You are chairperson for the session 1. Mask थोड़ा काम है.